99% of us were not taught any skills on mastering money before being sent out into the world. With today's guest, we have an opportunity to learn how to break that cycle.
Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanyamfk. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Designed Life, where we learn the latest science, tips, tools, and strategy for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Tanyamfk, and on the My Designed Life Show podcast and all available streaming sites. I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres Preisinger, more easily known as Tanyamfk. Now, you are here today to learn not only how to create your best life, but how to do it now. And I'm thankful that you showed up. Now, my guest today was ranked the top 2% out of 16,000 financial advisors nationally while working for Merrill Lynch for 9 years. At the height of the financial crisis in 2008, he made a decision to choose his clients over the rest of the industry noise and left the perks of Wall Street to become an entrepreneur, founding Pacific Capital, a transparent wealth advisory firm based in my home state of California. Now, he's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Inc., and Entrepreneur Magazine, just to mention a few, and is the author of the #1 bestseller, Stress-Free Money. And that book taught us how to make financial freedom and planning a reality. Well, today, he's here to show us how to pass that information on to the next generation with his new book, Smart, Not Spoiled, the 7 money skills kids must master before leaving the nest. Please welcome Chad Willardson. Hi, Chad.
Hi, thank you for having me back, Tanya. Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm super excited to move forward with this. I mean, I know last time when we talked and you were on the show, we discussed the lack of financial literacy that is passed on to kids. It's
Right.
not taught in schools, right? It's often an avoided subject in families and at dinner tables. And I was one of those kids. I didn't receive any financial direction or foundation. And as an adult, I was desperate to figure that out. But that road to sort it all out can be daunting and overwhelming. And I'm fortunate to be on that path now with the wonderful direction we've had from you. But I'm also a mom, and I want to make sure that my son has the tools and knowledge that I didn't have. So I really want to know and dive into these 7 money skills. So why don't you just tell us where we should start?
Yeah, so I think you're in the situation that many of us find ourselves in, which is we're now parents and we're wondering, how do we teach our kids about money? How do we give them a foundation that we were not given? It's no different for me. We were in basically a middle income household growing up. We had a small house. My parents shared a 10-year-old used car, and money was kind of a taboo subject. We didn't really talk about it. I know my dad was very careful about spending. They were pretty frugal, but we were kind of expected to just figure it out on our own. I knew we were givers because my parents always talked about donating and giving money to church and to charities and being very generous. But beyond that, I didn't know anything about financial literacy, investing, loans, taxes. And so the goal of this book, and I got a little copy here for you to look at, but I really wanted to give families a resource guide with some stories, some ideas, some insights and activities on the basically the what, the why, and the how to teach kids about money. So that gives you a little bit of the background. And it was difficult for me to narrow it down, but what I try to do is pick 7 core topics that I believe would give kids a great foundation to start from. So that's basically the background of the book. I'm not sure if you want me to dive into each of them. Maybe I'll give you the chapter topics first and tell me if any of them stand out and we can jump in. But these are the 7 topics that I really feel strongly about that kids need to learn about. Number 1 is invest early and often. Number 2 is borrow wisely. Number 3 is know your cash flow. Number 4 is talking taxes. Number 5 is learn to earn. Number 6 is protect who and what you care about. And number 7 is give generously.
I love it. I mean,
any of those who want to dive in?
Yeah, I feel like we need to see if we can touch base on all these. But I think the first question that's going to happen and come up is, when do we start having these conversations?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good question. You can have money conversations with kids who are very young. Believe it or not, kids who are 4 and 5 years old, they're already learning a lot by observing their parents. So money blueprints I've found stick with you from a very young age all the way into your later elderly years. I met a
Wow.
couple who was in their 70s. They had millions of dollars in their investment accounts, retirement accounts. They had pensions. They had investment income. They had no debt. They were totally financially free. And they'd had the same old crusty carpet since like 1968. And this was in the 2000s. And I remember the wife, I was sitting at the table and the wife was like, his name was Harold. And she's like, Harold, we got to get new carpet. Like, we got to replace our nasty carpet. And we're hosting everyone for the holidays. We need to get some new carpet. And he was just like, there's nothing wrong with the carpet. There's nothing wrong with it. And if there's nothing wrong with it, we don't need this. We don't need to replace it. And I said, how much is it going to cost? And they said it was going to be a few $1,000s. And I was thinking to myself, they have millions of dollars. They have no reason not to just replace the carpet. And so I said, Harold, what is inside of you that refuses to just spend a little bit of money to get new carpet? Obviously, this would make your wife very happy. And he just said, ever since I was little, my parents would not replace stuff. They would say, we can stretch it out another year. We can stretch it out another year. And since he was little, that stuck with him.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that these lessons, these conversations, and how we approach money, our kids are watching, and that will stick with them forever.
Yeah, I love you called it. You said financial blueprint.
Yes.
I mean, I just love that term, and it is. It's so I've been really mindful because my son's actually 5 right now, and just been really mindful of when we're saying no to something for just good old fashioned no reasons, like no, we don't need an 8th candy bar type thing, to not use terms that to, I guess, just to be mindful of what I'm going to say, why the reason is it, oh, that's too expensive. Is it like, what do I want to be saying and instilling? Because I know that those will stick with us for so long, like good old Harold, who could definitely have the carpet and wouldn't replace it. So yeah, I love that we can start early, because I some of those topics, I feel like they sound so big, but they are watching us young. They are watching. I know we're in a position right now where we're going, what do we do with allowance? How do we explain that to a 6 or soon to be 6-year-old? We actually created little jars right now. Maybe you can help us with this a little bit, but we have spending, savings, and investing. And so we're trying to explain the investing jar to our
That's awesome. Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect. So I'll rewind back on that and say that even when you're doing simple things like grocery shopping, you can talk to the kids as a parent about where the money came from, what work went into it to earn the money, how you've decided to spend the money on what, how do you make decisions of buying. And I think you can teach them a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset. If you're constantly telling your kids, we can't afford this, we can't afford this, we can't afford this, that's going to be pounded into their head that they can't afford it, they can't buy it, they can't afford it, and they're going to have that fear and that scarcity forever. I promise you, I've seen it.
Yeah.
So you need to, if you're choosing not to buy that candy bar, then let the child know it's a conscious decision. It's not because of scarcity, it's because we're choosing to spend our money elsewhere.
That's so powerful. Like, I love just the way you said that, conscious decision, and not because of scarcity.
Yes.
That, we're not buying it because we don't need another candy bar, and I don't want the more sugar here. No, that is powerful, because I grew up with that scarcity mindset, and I had that position in life where there was money, but I never knew how to enjoy it, because the goal was just to always have it for this security, to have it stored away. And then it came to a point where, with my husband, he was like, what was the point of having it if we're not going to do anything, remotely fun with it? And I was like, and it took so much to undo that belief. So, yeah.
I think a lot of people could relate to one of their parents. For me, it was my dad. But like, the second I left a bedroom, if the light wasn't turned off, it was like, turn off the lights. Why did you turn off the lights? And I just remember starting to say that to my own kids, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, we have LED lights. If it's on for another 5 minutes, is it going to break the bank? Like, it's, but that's the mentality we grew up with. It's like, turn off the lights, hurry up, turn off the lights. And really that's that fear and that scarcity of like, oh my gosh, it costs money. If we have that on, we better turn it off right away. And it just pounds that fear into these little kids. So I think making conscious, intentional statements to children about money is very, very valuable. Even from a young age, we were leaving Disneyland with our 5 kids, and we had spent a lot of money at Disneyland.
Imagine.
It was years ago. We ate the meals there. We obviously paid the park entrance fees. And it was after the fireworks show. We're walking out to the tram. And of course, this guy selling Mickey Mouse balloons, glow in the dark balloons, right in front of us before we're leaving the park. And I'm like, oh gosh. And each balloon is $16. And one of my younger kids said, Dad, can we each get a balloon so we can remember this day at Disneyland? That would be so fun. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, I am not spending $100 on balloons on the way out of Disneyland. Like, what a scam, That's what I was thinking. Right. And I said, we've already spent a lot of money today, so we're not going to buy the balloons right now. And he said, just go over to that little box machine over there where they give you all the money and get some more. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, like we need to have more talks about money, obviously, because he thinks there's a magic box that just produces it when we want it. So yeah, it definitely sparked a little bit of me saying, I better start teaching them better. This was probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah. I know it's huge. I had the same actual experience with my son who had the magic box. Well, you just go over there where they give the money comes out. And he also believed that every time you gave money, how you get change back. He just thought that was they just give you more money back. He thought that was this like mutual exchange of just dollar for dollar kind of thing. Awesome. So trying to explain to him like, no, that's not how it works. That's not what's going on. So where do we go? So we see like it's powerful. It's a conversation that needs to be had. And it sounds like there's no such thing as too young. I mean, like you said, this impression happens with our reactions, with the words that we're saying, with the comments. I can even imagine like, hey, we don't need it could be something to be more mindful of because, where I came, we don't need it. Well, is there a time where I get to enjoy it? Harold didn't need the carpet, but we get to enjoy the new carpet. So it's even just those mindful choices of the words that we're saying, the conversations, maybe just bringing to light, like, this is money we're taking from our bank account right now. There's not a magic man inside.
And I think if you're going on a vacation, I think months before you can talk about how we're working and we're saving money because we're going to do something really fun together and enjoy our work. And you could make that a little bit of a build up to teach that you can budget and save and do really fun things. And it's not all about just saving and, investing and not having any fun as well. But back to the allowance point, you talk about allowance. So in chapter 5, it's called Learn to Earn. And this chapter, I share a little bit about what we've taught our kids about earning money and the responsibility of being valuable. So my wife and I, as you know, have 5 kids. We've never paid an allowance, never paid $1. Our philosophy was there are certain things you do because you live here. And that's the basics of making your bed and brushing your teeth and taking the trash out and stuff like that. And then what we did is we created basically a spreadsheet, a menu of opportunities. So kind of like above and beyond work that kids could do. And if they choose to do that, they're going to get points. And at the end of the week, they redeem their points to get paid. But it's all the above and beyond stuff. And it's up to them. They could earn nothing. And some weeks I have some of my kids, they get nothing. But some of the weeks the kids go overboard and they've got a focused goal, like, saving up for an electric scooter. My son was saving up for an electric scooter and he was putting in the work. I mean, he was like, he was working hours every day after his homework was done to try to earn more money. And there's sections in the spreadsheet, age appropriate, but you can essentially, if you see a need, you can figure out something that needs to be done. So you initiate the project. Like they could come to my wife and say, hey, I noticed the garage is really dirty. I'd love to sweep and mop and wipe the walls down and do some other stuff. And I think that project could be worth $25 because it's going to take me 3 hours, and we can negotiate and we can agree on a price, and then they can go get to work. So I like giving them the opportunity to look around and try to initiate it. Even with the younger kids, with your almost 6-year-old, if he were to say, hey, can I get this candy? Or, hey, can I go to this birthday party? We would, in our house, we would say, yes. What are some things you can do to help that are above and beyond helpers that could help you earn some money so that you can go participate in that activity? And so they'll look around and say, well, can I do this? Can I do that? And it just teaches them to actually look around for work and be valuable, rather than an allowance. To me is like, well, I existed another week and I'm still alive. So, I need some money because I'm still here on another Saturday.
Right.
So we kind of take a different approach, but I found it to be really empowering to the kids because they know it's up to them. They're not just going to get paid whatever. They get to choose. Do they want to make a lot this week or not?
I love that. No, I absolutely love that. The entrepreneurial, spirit in me just loves the idea of they have to kind of cite a problem and find a way to fix it. Now they're proposing you, and there's a negotiation. That alone just like excites me. But I've heard about this idea, and I love this about the going the above and beyond, where the things that you're doing here, the I guess typical chores, right? Making your bed, maybe helping put away the dishes, are part of that you're here, you're part of the team, that you live here, this is what's done. And I think that's hugely important, because I've heard it said that if we do it the other way, we start to just assume that we always get something for something. There's no such thing as just participating, just helping out, just being part of the team, that we kind of learn at an early age that we always should get something out of it. And so I love that shift into identifying what's this kind of core of family work, and then what is the above. You call them above and beyonds?
Yeah, we call them helpers, like work opportunities, helpers, things that are just not your daily stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so this is the learn to earn.
Yes.
Part, right.
Yes, and I'll add this kind of off topic but on topic, but I'm so passionate about this topic of teaching entrepreneurship to kids and financial literacy that I'm a co-owner in a company called My First Sale. And so myfirstsale.com is a company that teaches entrepreneurship to kids. Literally, they can basically start their own business from A to Z. And our team we have a CEO that's I think she's 16 years old, but it's a kid-run company. Essentially, we're the guides and mentors, but we're helping kids learn entrepreneurship and actually start their own businesses and have online business fairs for their business with their inner circle and community and schools and stuff. It's pretty cool. But
I'm like, how did I not know about this already? This is my heart right here. I love everything about it. We're gonna have to have you on again just to talk about this. So tell me a little.
Well, next year we have an app coming out that I'll definitely want to come back on. I hope to have hundreds of podcast interviews, because this is going to be, we're looking to disrupt the banks for debit cards for kids, because we just think they've done a horrible job. They basically put out debit cards for kids, and mommy and daddy put money on the account, and then the kids learn to spend it until they run out or whatever. So we're creating an app that will serve as a banking wallet for kids, but also has a ton of financial literacy, fun, gamified challenges for them to learn, so they can move up different levels. So like the little kids can do something like, if they go with mom or dad to the grocery store and they help decide on how much they're going to spend for their meals that week, they're going to get essentially coins, and they're going to move up a level because they've finished a challenge or they've finished a learning exercise. And so it's going to be essentially like a banking / financial entrepreneurship learning app for kids.
Wow.
We just hired the creator of Amazon Pay. We hired a couple executives from Venmo and PayPal. And these professionals have left millions and millions of dollars of compensation on the table to join us. And so they believe it's going to be a big deal, just like I do. So,
yes, it's huge. It is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the power that our youth have, the power that we can move forward with that financial literacy, how much more they can contribute. I mean, I understand there's money to be had in a lot of people's debt. But
Right.
I think you agree that there's so much more that can be created and happen when people are financially stable,
For
when they
sure.
actually,
For sure.
that have that understanding and can move forward in that. And I mean, just I see it as a change to humanity, really. I mean, it's so huge what that brings when there isn't that worry and concern and things going on. So
Right. Right.
so excited about
Yeah.
that. That's
That's
absolutely
exciting.
going to be talked about.
Well, I'll put the last plug in for that. But if anyone wants to go to gravystack.com, you can
Okay.
add your name to the wait list to get information as we start to roll out the
Yes.
initial versions of the app. So we expect it to probably be totally done and live by April of 2022. But we're going to release the first version of the app, hopefully end of December
I love it. So Gravy
21.
Stack, my first sale. We'll have some links in here for that for sure.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you can clearly see here the passion, I mean, about that you have, that you're creating and all of this for the kids. And so as we've learned the learn and earn, what was
Right.
the first chapter that you started with there?
Yeah, the first chapter I started with is invest early and often.
Yeah.
And I talk about, Warren Buffett's quote is how I start. It says, investing is laying out money now to get more money back in the future. And so teaching kids simply about investing is extremely powerful. Last night, I was having a conversation with my 14-year-old son, and he was, because my audiobook of Smart Not Spoiled just came out yesterday. So I
Perfect.
let him hear a little bit of a sample on Audible, and he's like, oh, that's really cool. And then I said, Pierce, I said, I don't think you understand like how powerful investing could be. I said, let me show you something. I said, here's a stock I invested in a year and 6 months ago. And I put in about $35,000 into this individual investment. I said, the value today is $285,000. I said, that's not normal. That was a big win. But I said, do you understand that like I didn't have to do anything for that investment to grow? I just made a good decision on that particular investment. And his eyes lit up. And I said, if you saved and invested $100 a month from age 16 to 65 and earned 10% in the stock market, you'd have 1.7 million at age 65. And he was like, I can do that. He's like, I earn over $100 a month. He's like, what if I invested $200 a month? I said, well, we should run the numbers and see what it could turn into. And he was like super excited. And he was asking me all about different stocks and companies that, that we use. I think teaching kids about companies that they use, like you can actually be an owner in Google or Amazon or Disney or Netflix, companies that kids are actually familiar with. Right. Brands that they know. I think that's a good place to start those conversations, because then they're interested. They know and they're familiar with what the company does. And so the earlier that young people can learn to invest and make that a conscious habit, the more successful they will be long term.
Yeah. Like it's not too early to expose the concept. I mean, you're not asking them to go up and then make all the decisions of everything, but just to understand the concept that it exists. And then, yes, ideally start them early. And that's what we did with just the jar that we had to kind of explain the concept. Right. And, I'll tell anyone here who's like, well, I don't even understand that. Go back and read Chad's Stress-Free Money book and understand it for yourself. And then come here with the literacy to be able to pass it on to your kids. I know for us, we started, once we kind of grasp it for ourselves, we've now created those accounts for my son, and we're putting those deposits in as he's 5 and creating that for him. But we're trying to have that conversation early. My husband, actually, he's a real numbers kind of geek. And so he shows my son his investment and while it's growing, and he doesn't even fully understand, but he gets excited. He's like, wow, he really is still young enough that he kind of knows what numbers are bigger than others, but there's no concept. But just the fact that he's involved in it, that he knows, and now he'll ask, Dad, what's my number at now? Like, what's
Yeah,
going?
that's
And again,
awesome.
he's, 5 going on 6. So I
That's
love that.
young. That's great.
Yeah,
Great.
well, we learned from the best, Chad. That's what
There
we're
you go.
at. So now that we're teaching them to invest young, what's our next step?
Yeah, I mean, teaching them about investments, teaching them that you can put money away. One of the activities, so at the end of each chapter, I have activities for parents
Ooh,
that you can
okay.
actually use as a teaching method. So one of them is the marshmallow experiment, which is pretty popular in
Right.
1972, that Stanford study. Here's a marshmallow with a kid in a room by himself. And if you wait 15, 30 minutes, you can have a second marshmallow. And that's just a simple, lesson demonstration for the child to learn that if I wait a little bit, I can have more. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something to do with investing. The second chapter is borrow wisely. So Albert Einstein said, those who understand interest earn it, and those who don't pay it.
Huh.
I'm not saying that like you should be totally against debt or that debt is all bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. But kids should understand as they get closer to high school that you can borrow from many different places and you can borrow from many different things, but certain things that you borrow money for could be extremely harmful in the end.
Mm,
And interest rates on credit cards are not the same as interest rates when you're buying a home or when you're taking out a loan for college. So the second they turn 18, they're going to get solicitations and advertisements for credit card loans and student loans and stuff right
okay.
away. So if we don't teach them a little bit about responsible borrowing, they could put themselves in a hole before they're even 21 years old. And so I think
Yeah.
this chapter is extremely important, teaching them the cost of borrowing and what it means to be responsible.
Yeah. And I want to call it the elephant in the room here a little bit is that unfortunately, I think in our society, being in crippling debt seems to be accepted as the norm.
It's true. I
It
mean,
seems like,
there's
oh, we're all in debt. It's all rough. It's tough. That's just what you do. And if we're not teaching them early, I remember hearing that from my parents, that the struggles that they had. And it was hard for me to understand actually how they got in debt. So I had the fear of debt, which I think was the one saving grace that I had, because
right.
I wanted to know, like, how did they keep getting in credit card debt? How was it a problem? So I was like probably the only 18-year-old who was reading all the fine prints because I
Right.
wanted to really make sure I understood it. And I remember my first credit card transaction, I kid you not, first credit card transaction, I went home, and this will tell you how old and I wrote a paper check out and I sent it in. The day I swiped the card, I already sent the payment because I was
That's awesome.
so terrified of like, how does it work? I don't want this interest. But yeah, I love that that's in there because that is such it's such a thing that catches a lot of people. I remember again also a young couple, early 20s, had bought like a furniture set, and it was one of those free interest kind of thing. And then once that free place ended, they were very surprised to find
Right.
that their monthly, payments had doubled or tripled for this couch set that they had purchased, and what a way
Right.
to start out your young, marriage, in some crippling debt for some couches. So I love that you bring that up.
Over 1 trillion of credit card debt a couple years ago, household credit card debt. So it's a problem. People are used to getting what they want immediately and then trying to pay for it later. But the more you can teach your children to responsibly use their money, the better off they'll be. That leads into number 3, chapter 3, which is know your cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
which is really talking about how you handle money, what's coming in, what's going out. And so I understand most of us parents don't tell our kids everything about our income and our financial situation, but I think we could be more transparent with simple things like how much we spend on food. And we could talk to them about how much it costs and the difference of going out to eat versus cooking a meal at home in the grocery store, and just involve them in a little bit of the budget so that they get a sense for what real life is like. I think it's a
Yes.
shock when they get to 18 or 21 or after college and they realize how much life actually costs to do the things that they're used to doing. So it's
Right. How
better
it
to
adds
prepare them
up.
earlier.
Yeah. I love that. My son loves eating out. He's just this, he's like this sociable. He like likes talking to the people at the restaurants. And so
Yeah,
he just any excuse to go out. And and here we have a very cafe culture in Europe. And
yeah.
so getting a slice of pie somewhere, and or we don't have pie, but cake and a latte. My 5-year-old loves lattes. And so, but I think he just loves being out there. And I've struggled kind of like, how do I like explain to him without creating that scarcity mindset that like this is just not okay. But I love, he said, just kind of explaining what we have and why we're choosing, what the difference is. I think that'll help us a lot, maybe curb that a little bit.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's important. And I think as they have their own, as they get their own bank account, as they get a little bit older, you can go over once a month and look at the bank account transactions with them and see the money they've deposited and the money they've spent, and just talk
Yes.
to them about what that means. I think even something simple as that will make a difference.
Yes. Yes. Even when he's spending like 25 cents or something like that. That's what my husband's doing now. He's got the spreadsheet and they go over it. They bring the receipts home and they log them in. And
That's
again, my
awesome.
husband loves this stuff, but I think my son's learning to appreciate it.
That's awesome. The chapter 4, I talked about talking taxes. Mark Twain's quote is, "What's the difference between a taxidermist and a tax collector?" And he said, "The taxidermist only takes your skin." So taxes are the number one budget expense. People don't realize that. They think it's their mortgage or their rent, their house payment, but really it's actually taxes. When you think about income taxes and property taxes and sales tax and all the other taxes we pay. So I remember we have a client who was a professional athlete, a basketball player, and he was 19 years old and he got his first contract in the NBA to be a professional player.
Wow.
And it was a 7-figure deal. It was over $1 million. And he was shocked to realize that he was going to get to keep less than half of what he had signed from the basketball team. So the taxes, and as a professional athlete who works in 22 different states because they play games in different cities and states, he has to pay state taxes to 22 different states, and they have different tax laws. And I think it was just a real wake-up call that was like, man, this is a bigger expense than I ever dreamed. I think it's important to teach kids about taxes.
Yeah.
One of the funniest ways I teach my kids about taxes, when we go out to eat or when they get a dessert, I always eat the first few bites of their meal. And I say, everyone's got to pay their taxes. And so I take bites. And literally, where were we? I don't remember where we were, but it was like this big piece of chocolate cake with whipped cream all over it. And my 6-year-old son, I took a massive bite, and his first bite, of course, and he like got the saddest face. And he says to me, like almost through tears, and this makes me sound like a bad guy, but he said, he kind of yelled it at the restaurant, "I'm sick of taxes." It was like the funniest moment ever. And I said, "Beckham, so am I." And it was just the funniest moment. And everyone then started laughing because it was just like, he didn't say like, "I'm sick of you eating my food." He said, "I'm sick of taxes." So we do that. I do that everywhere we go. It's also an excuse to try the meals that I didn't order. But,
right. So I mean, there's a big win-win here, parents.
It's a huge win-win. I'm just trying to be a good father and teach them about money.
Solely educational.
Yes. So I just think it's important. I think as the kids get older, like they're going to have let's say a part-time job at a restaurant or a movie theater when they're 16 or 17. And eventually at some point they'll have to file a tax return.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we should review a simple 1 or 2 page tax return for them before they graduate high school. Like, and if we don't know anything about it, that's okay. You can go to Google or YouTube and watch a video and say, hey, let's just watch a video about basic standards for filing your own taxes. I think that's important.
Yeah. And that's a simple way to get it started before they have that shock from that first part-time job. And they calculated that hourly and then get the actual check and go, wait, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
preparation.
Totally. So then the next chapter we already talked about, which is learn to earn. And I share a few other stories about my kids and what they've done to learn to be valuable and to be entrepreneurs. Number 6 is protect who and what you care about. The quote I use there is, remember, when disaster strikes, the time to prepare has already passed. So we talk about insurance. We talk about health insurance, home insurance, life insurance, car insurance, disability insurance. We just talk about how to prepare ourselves for basically the unexpected emergencies of life and why that's important. I've seen many situations where a family didn't have insurance and they had a disaster and it wiped out them financially and it affected the kids drastically. So I think that's an important topic to discuss.
Absolutely. And does this go into even like the emergency kind of that they talk about, like how much emergency funds would be ideal to have in your account type thing of like liquid?
I don't talk about it in that chapter, but I'll throw it out on this podcast. Like I always think 3 to 6 months minimum of your spending expenses. So whatever you spend each month, that's basically multiply that by 3 at the very least and 6 maybe on the high end, and just have 3 to 6 months in reserves at all time.
Love that. Thanks.
So the last chapter is give generously, and the quote I used to start that chapter is Winston Churchill. It's famous: we make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give. And so giving is one of the most essential principles for kids to understand, because financial success includes living with purpose, meaning, and significance. Accumulating a bunch of money without a goal serves no positive purpose, and in the end, you can't take it with you anyway. So we really talk about how to teach kids to be givers and to be generous and to share, and I think that really helps with the abundance mentality. If they know that they're going to be able to create enough value in the future to earn more, they won't be so scared to give some money away. So I think it's great to have them look at, maybe you have conversations where you talk about different charities in your home community, in your hometown, and to ask your kids what they like or what they're interested in, and could we go serve and give a little bit of time? Can we give a couple hours this next month or quarter? Can we give up a little bit of the money that we earned and share with them? I think those are great lessons as well that you can teach from a very young age.
100%. I mean, all of this, I'm so excited about it. And for, I would say for those of us, if you're hearing this and you can be a parent, you could be an aunt or an uncle, a teacher, or just care about like the humans that are being raised around here and what can happen, because this is more than just finances. I mean, this is mindset. This is, like you said, helping. It's understanding just everywhere where we can stand and exist and be. I just feel like it covers so much of who we are as humans that goes beyond the wallet. So I love that you did this. And I know enough people had asked you, and I'm so glad that you heeded that request to jump into this and you did it, and you did it so quickly. But I love this. I love how simple, as always, that you make it and you bring it to the plate and actionable. So before my last question, Chad, can you please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get this book, the audio book, all of those great things?
Yeah, thank you. So Smart Not Spoiled is available on Amazon and wherever you buy your books online. And the audiobook is also on Amazon or on audible.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And then our main website is pacificcapital.com.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful, guys. So get that book, get on that. I know you guys also, Pacific Capital has an IG. So if you guys want some tips and stuff there to learn about them, I know that they're very active there as well. It's just a fun one to follow. I'm always interacting with you guys on IG. So as we move into this, one thing we've covered, these 7 things, a lot of amazing tips. If we're the strongest place for us to start, or perhaps the first step that we can do to really move into this, where would you have us do that? What would you have us do?
First step is to commit to making money a positive conversation topic in your family. One of the studies that I cite in the book is that 75% of parents are more comfortable talking about drugs and sex with their young kids than about money. And it does not need to be like that. So
Yeah.
I'd say the first step is committing to make money a conversational topic in your home. And then having that first conversation about what do you want to pass on in your family regarding money? Like, what is it that you really want your family to learn and how you feel about it?
I love that. Yes. Because it starts with us. And once we can be comfortable, then we have a book that gives us 7 steps of how to have the rest of the conversation. Right?
Yes, totally.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I think that people talk about kids being spoiled and not appreciating stuff, but we have to do a better job at teaching them to appreciate it. We have to do a better job of talking about money, because they're not going to learn by seeing us click a button on Amazon and a box shows up tomorrow. Like, they're not going to learn to appreciate money. So a lot of it is on us. That's how I'll finish.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Take that with you today, you guys. As you heard that, you guys get in touch with Chad. LinkedIn, you can follow, like I said, the business account on Instagram that has great tips and info. You'll see me on there. I love to chat with them and their crew. They're amazing. They do fun stuff. There's so much powerful things here, from taking power of your own financial mindset, your financial steps, to make things simple, accessible, and it doesn't have to be under this big veil. I mean, really, I'm telling you, grab Chad's book. It really starts to have everything make sense. And then once you own it, you move it on into your family and you take that step. And we're going to change these generational blocks to finances and mindset, where you can really have that wealth and live it and use it now. So your financial health and wealth starts early. So get started now. As always, you can connect with us at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram, and learn more about our courses, workshops, and coaching to grow your business and create a life that you love at Tanyamfk.com. Or better yet, be our guest at one of our member trainings by commenting guest below, and we'll send you the details. If you like this episode, then make sure to subscribe and follow, and we'll notify you when the next one is up by clicking that button now. So remember, your someday, that day when it's all going to be better in the future, starts today. So make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. My Design Live is a Tanyamfk production. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. London on the Tanyamfk YouTube channel. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Suggest a topic or submit to be a guest by visiting our website at Tanyamfk.com.